In the past week, the NBA has been dealing with a bunch of problems, the types of problems that occurred last season and at the beginning of the pandemic. There have been outbreaks going on around the league where players have been entering the COVID-19 protocols, and it's getting out of hand quick. And even though well over 90% of the league is fully vaccinated, they now have a new problem. It was reported, according to Shams, that a player tested positive for the new variant called Omicron. And if you haven't heard, this variant is way more contagious than the Delta variant. So, it's obvious that it will be a problem in not just sports, but worldwide. But what I'm really wondering is, how is the NBA going to move forward? What is Adam Silver's plan? And is there going to be a second NBA bubble or not? How is everybody doing today? It's World Total Back with another video. Today, I'll be talking about the NBA and how they are currently a mess right now. Let's not waste any time, and let's get straight into it. Let's go all the way back to when this problem first began. On March 6, 2020, the NBA would end up testing their first player for COVID-19, and it was none other than Stephen Curry. Curry talked about how he felt at first. He said, quote, "March 6th, that's when it all became very real. I had just played my first basketball game in months the night before, and conversations were swirling about what this virus might mean for the league. That night, I started to feel sick. The fever set in, first at 100, then at 101. My first thought was, what are the chances? Could this really happen?" Luckily, the Warriors star got his result back testing negative. So, for now, the NBA didn't have to worry about anything. Until March 11th, when the first NBA player tested positive for COVID-19, Rudy Gobert. That's when the NBA knew it was time to make a move. It was soon reported that same day that players like Donovan Mitchell and Kevin Durant tested positive, basically meaning this virus was spreading across the entire league. So, still in the same day, the NBA made two announcements. They first said that the Warriors and Kings game would not have any fans attending, but just an hour later, the NBA made the decision to suspend the season. Now, when people first heard this, they went wild, and I don't blame them. This is their favorite sport to watch, and it's now being paused due to a virus, but it was the only way to keep everyone safe. A few months would pass, and it was then announced that there would be the first ever NBA bubble. 16 teams who are or can make the playoffs were in this bubble, and the other teams, well, their season was basically over. Adam Silver thought it was the only way to keep the people safe and to play basketball. And I'll admit, Silver definitely did a good job with this. If you look at other commissioners such as Roger Goodell or Rob Manfred, you know very well that those men could never think of such a great way to play their own sport while still being safe. The 2019-20 season will go down as the longest NBA season in recent NBA history. Why, may you ask? Because the season started on October 22nd, 2019, and the NBA Finals ended on October 11th, 2020. That season and the playoffs nearly lasted an entire year. This year, the NBA season started on October 19th, and the playoffs/finals will end around mid-June. And if you add all of that up, it would be 7 months of basketball. So it's still a lot, but since the 2019-20 season, it was suspended for a few months, that technically means it is the longest season in quite a while. So Adam Silver did a great job not just finishing the season, but also keeping the players safe, as for a couple of months, no player tested positive. But that's when Adam Silver had another problem, which was going to financially hurt the league. Because of having this bubble and not having any fans attend games, the NBA would lose over $1 billion in revenue, which basically meant that if the NBA were to do another bubble because of COVID, they might just go bankrupt. So Adam Silver tried to look at the situation without the bubble. Even though the cases were somewhat at their peak and there were thousands and thousands of cases per day, he tried to not have a bubble and instead not have fans attending games. So it would still be like before the pandemic, just with no fans. Obviously, players would test positive and enter protocols, but it wasn't so bad to the point where they would have to shut down the league again. Maybe it got close once or twice, but we knew the NBA season had to continue. Then in December of 2020, the first COVID-19 vaccine was created. More and more of them would be made, and players started getting vaccinated. It was all going so well to the point that the NBA allowed fans to re-attend games. Not just that, but the cases were dropping, which meant that the league could very well go back to normal. So let's just say that the ending of the 2020-21 season was a very pleasant one, as people weren't as concerned. But then came this season. where it looks like we're going back to stage 1 of the virus. There have been many reports recently of players entering the COVID-19 protocols, and it has caused chaos throughout the league. Despite the fact there is both COVID-19 vaccines and booster vaccines is wild, because even though we have these vaccines and boosters, the virus is still very contagious. Ever since the Omicron was revealed, it has been spreading all over the world, and Shams ended up reporting not too long ago that the first NBA player has tested positive for the Omicron variant. Now the league is in a huge mess because this variant will only get stronger, which means only more and more players will be infected by it. So, I have one question. What should Adam Silver's plan be to not have another shutdown for the league? I did a little bit of thinking as to what Adam Silver could attempt doing, but I really just don't know what he can do besides what he did back in 2020. I mean, he could get rid of fans again and tell players to get the booster, but I'm starting to wonder whether it's too late or not. Adam Silver is a very smart man who knows what he is doing. But if plan B for him is another bubble, then the NBA will be in trouble financially. Hopefully things start to cool down a little soon, as it is starting to get out of hand. And if it continues, then the NBA is probably just like Omicron. It will continue to grow. That is going to be it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you're new to the channel, please consider to leave a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. I'm out, and happy holidays.